right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to this new art stream. Hope you all are having a wonderful Sunday so far. So today, we are finally going to finish this thing. We just got a few details to go over. Just going to clean up some stuff, and then we're going to finish it off, and we're going to sign it, and then hopefully the next stream will actually stretch it. I'll show you that process, because, well, I mean, it's going to be quite the task to stretch this thing, because it is quite a big canvas. And don't mind me, I'm just wiping off some dust, because I actually had to roll this up yesterday, because I was using this wall for another painting, an experiment that didn't go well. But that's all right, you know, that's how art works. So, with that being said, we're going to finish this off, and we're going to start down here in the forested area first. Just clean up some stuff, get rid of a little bit more of the background, the lighter areas of the background that, you know, I don't think need to be there. They're kind of superfluous. And then we're going to we're going to clean up this guy down here, make that look a little better, you know. And then we're just going to go around the rest of the painting, do a few touch-ups here and there, and just make sure everything looks good, everything, you know, is up to standards. And then we're going to start the abstraction. Jake from the Woods, thank you for the raid, man. Appreciate it. I know the last hour of your stream went well. I hope the first couple of hours went well, because I didn't catch it that early. But yeah, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. But yeah, we're just going to finish this up, and yeah, like I said, do a few spots, just kind of cleaning up some things that I missed, and then we're going to do the abstraction, which there's not going to be too much of that. Oh, good. It was a fun one. I'm glad. And yeah, we can finally like sign this painting, and then like I said, the next session we'll stretch it, and I'll show you the process that goes into that, which will be fun. We'll take a little field trip down onto the floor. Yeah, so let's get started. And for anybody coming in with Jake's stream, welcome. I'm Soul Commodore. I do something a little different than, you know, video game stuff. I do live painting and drawing sometimes. I did a drawing before. So yeah, just sit back, relax, and let's get started. So first things first, of course, we got to get our paints together. Yeah, Jake, I'm glad that the last battle I saw you do ended with a win. It's always nice to go out on a win. So we're just gonna get our paint together. Yeah, that is fair enough. But hey, as long as it's fun, you know. But I understand VGC being hit or miss. That was me with my Venusaur Torkoal team, where about 50% of the time people fell for it with my strategy, and the other half of the time they saw right through it and destroyed me. But hey, you know, that's the luck of the draw. After we finish this painting, probably, see, the next session will be Tuesday, and then the one after that will be, what'll it be? It'll be Thursday, next Thursday. I'm going to see if I can get a setup where I've got like two, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to see if I can get a setup where I've got two cameras going, where, yeah, you could actually see me from two different angles. So you can see me over here doing the paint, because the way I'm set up right now, like this is facing right at the wall, and there's not really much other space. But since we're going to be working in the forested area, let me drop you guys down a little bit. So grab the camera. And we'll drop you down here. That works. Alright, so now we've got our paint together. So now we just have to grab a brush. And this is going to be a slightly larger brush than we have been working with, just for the fact that we're kind of filling in areas right now that I don't want to have a lot of paint. So we can work in larger strokes. There aren't too many of those areas left, but I just want to kind of clean it up. So yeah, we're going to start over in this corner of the painting first. Yeah, clean that up a little bit. So we're going to grab our black paint. I'm going to kneel down here. And just going to start filling in some of this stuff down here. And we're still using that same technique where we're kind of just like dabbing the paint on instead of like doing full strokes like that, which will just add to the effect. Even though there won't be lighter areas where I'm putting this black paint, it will still get across the effect of there being texture in this area, you know. Yeah, I hope that y'all are having a wonderful Sunday so far. I've been spending the last couple of days trying to get artwork submitted to a local show at a gallery called the Station Gallery, not too far from me. Doing that, and also resurfacing the floor, if you will, at my girlfriend's parents' house. So that's been fun. It hasn't been too difficult to process, actually. It's been pretty straightforward. Just putting on a new floor, because they've been trying to... They redid their basement, and then it flooded. So they had to basically start from scratch. Now again, this here... the unfortunate thing about most paint, but especially acrylic paint, is it looks much lighter and much glossier than it will actually dry. So this starts out looking a lot wetter than it's actually going to end up being. So we're gonna have to wait just a little bit for all this to dry, and then we can get like a good look of what this painting is actually going to look like, you know. Which can be kind of annoying, but that's the nature of paint. That's kind of how it works. It's one of the reasons actually why I didn't like painting for the longest time. Just because with drawing, and especially with charcoal, like you get, like what the final result is going to be is immediate, because charcoal doesn't have to dry, pencil doesn't have to dry, you know. You can see exactly what it's going to look like right away. But you just have to learn to be patient with paint. So I think that covers about what I wanted to cover in that area. So now we'll shift the camera over a bit. And we'll do this this middle area, I think. Which there's really actually not much to do in this area. I did cover up most of what I wanted to cover up. But we'll just do a double check. Yeah, they wanted a finish on their floor. It's sort of like the textured finish that you would get on, say, like a pool deck. You know, just something non-slip, something that's fairly easy to clean. So they went out and got the supplies, and then it just goes on with like a roller, like paint. It's actually kind of nice. Okay. And we'll go down here a little bit. Add some stuff down here. All right. What I'm doing here too is I'm kind of searching for areas where it looks like the paint wasn't applied thick enough. So some of the background canvas color is shining through, which honestly like isn't a huge deal, but I do, like, if I can catch them, I do try to cover those up, you know. But it's not a huge deal because I don't tend to put a lot of paint on the canvas anyway. Like I've mentioned before, I don't put layers upon layers of paint on the canvas, so you're gonna get spots like that every once and again. At least I do, and it hasn't seemed to diminish the work at all. So, okay. So I think that covers what I wanted to do for that section. So now we will move over here to the corner. And again, here there's not too much that I have to take out. Just so yeah, just again, slow and steady, we're just going around, just covering up what needs to be covered up here in the background. And again, I know for some of you it might look like I'm just painting black on black, but there are actually different tones in this black, and that's basically what I'm cleaning up right now, because there are some that turned out all right and some that are just a little bit too light. So I'm just taking those out in the effort to keep things consistent. But I think we're getting close here. I don't know if any of you watching follow the NFL, American football at all, but if you do, I do weekly picks, where I just pick every game and, you know, see if I win or lose. And last week was just awful. Like, there were so many upsets. Just teams that I never would have thought would win, just coming out of nowhere and beating teams that they shouldn't have won against. So I'm hoping this week goes a little bit better. It's a little bit more predictable. One thing, I was listening to a podcast that was talking about he ran the NFL podcast actually, and they had a guest on, Cynthia Freeland, who does a lot of like, she's kind of written a program that sort of like does NFL predictions based on, you know, all sorts of different factors. And she noted that one of the interesting things about this year is more than any other time recently, more away teams, like teams that aren't playing in their home stadium, more away teams are beating home teams now than have before, which I thought was interesting because it's kind of erasing like the whole home field advantage that you tend to hear about with sports. And I'm not sure why, because I know last year in the middle of the COVID pandemic, where like a lot of teams weren't, I mean it was empty stadiums, so you didn't really have the advantage of a home crowd. That erased home field advantage, because again the stadiums were empty, and that made sense. But this year, like, stadiums are full, and it's just interesting. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we're heading toward a trend where like there's enough talent on teams that home field advantage doesn't matter anymore. I mean, that could be it. But yeah, it's either way, I find it interesting. All right. So I think that about covers what I want to do here. Yep, this path meets up with that one. And the light is good. Like, I'm not touching this again. That looks fine. Well, I don't know. Maybe I will touch that up just a little bit. So we'll grab a smaller brush. I know I've mentioned it before, but really the key to any sort of creative enterprise like painting, drawing, music is, you know, just making constant decisions about what you want to do, you know? Just an endless amount of decisions that have to be made. But that's okay, you know? That's what makes it fun. So we'll grab a little bit of a white and yellow and this blue over here. I'm gonna make a really, really, really light green to replace some of this like bright white. Because I'm not sure I want the white in here. But we're just going to do some test areas to see, and if it kind of looks goofy, then I'll just leave it alone. I won't mess with it. So we'll just see here how that ends up looking. Actually, that's not too bad. So we'll just sprinkle some of this in. Just so it doesn't look just plain white. So there's some green in there. There we go. We'll kind of spread this up and out. Okay. That looks better. At least I think so. So now we're going to grab our really tiny skinny brush again, and we are going to start working on this gentleman down near this light laying in the bushes. We're going to see what he's doing down there. So grab our tiny little brush, you know, that's starting to fray a little bit. Which is unfortunate because I don't really want it to, but there, that's a little better. So, I think the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to reposition his right foot. That's the first thing we're going to do. So we're going to fill in this area here with the background color. So we're going to do a little bit of color matching to the best of our ability. With a little bit of white and black and some red. And we're just going to lightly cover that up. And we'll darken it just a little bit. To match just a little bit better. There we go. And then we'll add some black here where the highlight on his leg was, because we're going to redo that as well. Because what I want to do is I want to have his right leg kind of like facing to the side, like bent and facing to the side. So we'll thin that brush out. And how do we want to do this? And this might end up looking terrible, so we'll go back to the way it was, you know. But that's the fun in doing stuff like this, experimenting. And that's all black anyway, so we're just going to keep that there. And we'll do the shape of the leg via just adding some highlights from the light shining off of the shining from the light. So we'll put this brush in water to make sure it doesn't dry out. And we'll grab this brush here. We'll kind of spin it. Basically what I'm doing here is, like, if you have a brush that's frayed, you just get some paint on there and then you spin it against the palette. You know, just sort of back and forth, and that will give you a fine point. You know, because now the paint's attached to all the surfaces of the brush. And let's see. Because I want this to be a highlight, but I don't want it to be too bright, so we're going to get some of that paint off the tip of the brush. So there's the one leg. There's the other one. I do want to put a highlight on the very tip of his shoe, almost like it was, you know, very shiny. All right, and I think that turned out pretty well, actually. We might come back and change that just a little bit, but I'll show you all what we did. So, where is it at? There it is. So now we've got this leg here, kind of straight out. Then we've got this leg that's bent. So, yeah. I think that turned out pretty well. And like I said, we might come back and change things just a bit, but I think for now, I'm just gonna leave it like that. So I think that's all the detailing that I wanted to do in the forested area. So now we'll move up to the skyline. So I will move the camera back up. Jake from the woods, I see you lurking there. So, we'll move the camera back up. Excuse our boxes there. Alright, there we go. So I want to start over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add like a few like little light variances in these apartment windows, so like, because you can sometimes actually see where the lights are, right? I'll move the camera this way a bit. Yeah. You can actually see where the lights are in the apartments, like you can see like a light bulb or like a lamp or something like that. So I just want to add something like that using mostly white paint. And then maybe add a few things in the windows, you know, like curtains, stuff like that, you know, just smaller detail work. So we're going to use the skinny brush again. There it is. But we're going to wash it off first. And where did... There it is. You know, it's funny sometimes how you can be the only one using something and you still lose it. Like I didn't know where I put this cloth down. I know when I was living alone, I was the worst for that. Like I would lose stuff all the time, and it's like I'm the only one in this house that could possibly be using this thing. A big thing was socks. Like my socks would go missing. And it's like, how could that possibly be? I'm the only one in this place that wears my socks. I just chalked it up to gnomes, or the dryer monster, you know. Alright, so the first one we're going to do is here. Oh. There we go. So we'll grab some white paint because you can see that most of the light is coming from this corner. So we're just going to add a little instance there of just a ball of light to indicate a lamp, a light source of some kind. And we'll kind of halo that out, and then we'll go back in and add some more white. Just like so. Oop. So I'll show you all how that looks all up close. So you see now we've got like a ball of light in that window there. That wasn't there before. And that's basically the kind of detail stuff that we're doing right now. is just going in now that everything else is done and just kind of picking spots. And we're not going to do it in every window, just a few. Same with like adding curtains and stuff. We're not going to do that in every single window. Just, again, just a few. We'll add just a little bit of white. Up here. And here. And we're going to do some in this over here, just very, very light. In some of these spots. I think that'll do it for that building. And we're doing all the white stuff first, and then I'll kind of come back and do some different colors of lights. Okay, so that about does that for there. So yeah, we're gonna grab some other colors here, add a little bit of yellow and red, and we'll do more of a like a lamp, like an incandescent lamp, kind of orangish glow, but also like brighter. And we'll put that like maybe here. Then we'll get that paint off the brush. And then just kind of halo it out again. Then we'll get that color back on the brush. Then we'll actually we'll make it more yellow for these particular lights. I'm just adding like a little fluorescent light to these stairwell lights. There we go. Okay, now just a little bit of red to the color we just mixed. We'll go in here. And a little light source there. And we'll come back here and do some stuff over here. Just picking and choosing our spots. There we go. So, I'll show you what we did before we start adding stuff like curtains and shadows and all that kind of stuff. So, you can see up here in this light there's a little bit there, here, and added a little bit there. And then you can see up here I added the fluorescent lights in all of those windows. Then we've got like a little lamp here. We got some stuff here. And then we added a couple of fluorescent lights in this apartment. Yep. Oh, I forgot about this one over here. We did that. And then back here, again, they're just more or less dots of light. But it adds a little extra. Which is exactly what we're going to do now when we add just to give the painting just that little extra little detail. Give your eyes something to look at, you know? So we'll get a little bit of black and we'll mix it with the colors that we just had. And we'll just start adding, need a little bit more black. There we go. And start adding just some shadows. Like I said, with this here, maybe we'll have a curtain just sort of hanging there. We'll try to match that with the color that's already in the space. You know, just sort of to add a little bit of something. There we go. We're going to try and keep within the lines that we already painted, you know. Try not to go outside the lines too much. Excuse my hand while I just get in there a little more. There we go. Maybe there'll be like a dresser right here. Some stuff on top of it. Same over here. There'll be less defined stuff the further back we get. The trickiest part of this actually is making sure that you have enough paint on your paintbrush because we're dealing with such small spaces. That it can be difficult to make sure that you've got enough paint on your brush. There we go. Like I said, not too much, but I'll show you what we did. So I guess the most prominent thing we did was like we added like a little curtain here, and down here we added like what could be like a dresser or something just in front of the window. We added a bit more shading here. There's my finger. And then back here, like we filled in this one half of the window and put in some stuff here and here, you know, just to give that little extra bit of. Sorry about that, my my iPhone came unplugged a little bit, so I think we're back now. Cool. All right, so I think that's all the detail that we're gonna do. Yeah, what are we? Almost an hour in? Yeah, I think that covers just about all of the details that I wanted. Let me think here. That's what I forgot. We're just gonna get some black on our brush, and we're just gonna do some details on top of these buildings, you know, to add certain things that might be up there, like all the vent stuff and water tanks and conditioners, all that kind of stuff. So we're just gonna add some stuff on top of these apartments. Not super detailed, but enough to just give the impression that there's actual mechanical stuff on top of these roofs. I remember when I was a kid, we would watch Home Improvement, and I could never quite understand. Oh, and we would watch that home renovation show with Bob Vila. And I was always confused because they would pronounce roof like roof. And I would ask my dad, like, what is a roof? And he said, oh, it's just how, you know, some Americans pronounce roof. So for like a week, to sound fancy, I went around at school and said roof every chance that I got. I was a kind of a weird kid. There we go. Like I said, nothing too like outlandish, nothing too like crazy detailed, just little things just to add a little bit extra. add just a little extra realism to the painting. Yeah. We'll do some stuff up here. Yeah. There, I think that works. Okay, so I'm going to clean off this brush, and then I'm going to take a quick break just to use the bathroom and grab a drink, and when we come back we'll start doing some abstraction. So that should be fun, because I think we've covered just about every thing in terms of detail that I wanted. Yeah, and it didn't take as long as I thought it would, which is good. So yeah, I'm just going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will start the abstracted elements of this painting. So yeah, just enjoy the tunes, and I'll set you up with my screen here, and I will be right back. All right, we are back. So, what I'm actually going to do, because I forgot there was one other thing that I wanted to do. I'm going to move the camera down so that you get, like, because there's some more stuff I want to do with this gentleman who's lying in the grass over here. So I wanted to bring the camera down so that you could really see what it is that I'm working on. And hopefully that should be close enough, I think. Maybe if I shift things this way a bit. Yeah, because we're just going to be working right here. So I'm going to grab my tiny little brush again, make sure that it's washed off. Not that one, this one. There we go. I'm going to dry that off, and then we're just going to come in and do, because what I want to do is I want to add an arm very lightly, just like a hint of like there's someone's arm there with his hand kind of curled. And there's going to be very, 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 very small details and very light details, but I think it'll add just that much more to this area. I think. I could be wrong. So, first thing I'm going to do actually before I start that is I'm going to grab my other small brush. And I'm just going to, now that that paint's dry, I'm going to cover up part of that other leg that I don't quite like. It's just a little bit too off for me. So we're gonna cover that and that. And then we'll come back to that in just a second. Okay, so we'll put that brush here just beside the camera. And now, like I said, just very, very light. Not much paint on the brush. Just want to come in here and kind of decide where do I want his hand. So I think like his thumb would be here, you know, some fingertips. That'll be the top of his jacket. And then we're going to add a bit of black paint. That was a little too bright, but we're gonna gray some of that out, so that'll be fine. Same with that there. I'm gonna add some black, and it'll end up looking okay. Need just a little bit more paint on the brush. Okay, so now we're gonna grab some black and kind of gray out some of those areas that were a little bit too light. Just like so. Then we'll do a little bit of his sleeve here. This is really, really precise work, which is why I'm taking my time with it, because, you know, be very easy to do too much. There we go. Okay. Let's see how this looks from a distance. Honestly, I think this is one of those instances where, for all the time that I spent on that, this is one of those times where less is a little bit more, actually. So I think we're actually going to go in and take out this arm, because I don't really think it needs to be there. Yeah. Yeah, I think we get enough from the rest of this to suggest that there's something there. There we go. Okay, so let's move the camera back up, because one more thing I want to do is work on the gentleman who is smoking up in the red apartment. So we'll just move the boxes back up, because again, this is very guerrilla camera work. I have the camera, my phone, stacked up on top of a bunch of boxes. It's very very fancy, I know, but you know what? If it works, it works, and that's the most important thing. So we're going to be working on this gentleman here. Let me see if this zoom will work. without like blurring things out too much. That looks pretty okay. Basically what I want to do is I just want to like fix this arm just a little bit. Again, not doing too much. There. Again, I really didn't do too much there. There was just a line that wasn't quite right that I wanted to fix up. The phone's right in front of the... There, you can see it there. Yeah. His left arm just wasn't quite right enough for me. It wasn't straight enough for me. It was like crooked in two places. So I just straightened that up and now we're good. All right. So now I think it's time to start doing some abstraction because this piece is part of my tracking series, and the whole point of the tracking series is to kind of break down representational planes like this, you know, something that looks realistic, and introduce abstraction to it in a way that's kind of like the plane is breaking down, if you will. You know, like something's going wrong. And the abstraction is one way to do that. Basically, we have to pick and choose. And it's called tracking because the glitch effect, because that's basically what it is. It's like reality is starting to glitch out. And part of that effect sort of looks like, if you remember like old VCRs, if you remember VCRs and VHS tapes, when a tape would start to run badly, right? And it would run off the spools a little bit. The picture would get all messed up and glitchy. So you had to press the tracking button, and the tracking button, I guess, started a little mechanism to try and get that tape back on the spool the correct way. At least I think that's how it worked. But anyway, that's why the series is called Tracking, because reality is starting to glitch. And part of the thinking behind that idea of reality breaking down is because for a lot of people, like, reality in a way is kind of breaking down. I mean, you look at the political divide between people, all the controversies that have come to light through the years, which has been exacerbated by like 24-hour media and like news media and social media, where everything is available at an instant. You know, and the fact that for a lot of people, like, you know, you can't afford a house. Food is getting more expensive. Just all this stuff. It sort of seems like reality is breaking down in a way. So I guess this series, in a way, is kind of an exploration of that through abstracting realistic planes like this. So, all that being said, let's go grab our palette knife. Because that's what I use to actually introduce the abstract elements to these paintings. So, and if you, honestly, like, if you're interested in doing painting, these things, palette knives, are great. There's all different shapes. This is the one that I like. There's different sizes. You'll see, like, skinny ones. There's fatter ones, there's rounder ones, there's like round palette knives. It really just comes down to your preference, and I really, really like using them. And you can use them with acrylic, you can use them with oil. I haven't seen any examples of it, but I'm sure you could use it with watercolor and gouache and all that. Hell, I'm pretty sure you could probably use it with airbrushing in a way. I don't know how, but airbrushing and spray painting. So, the most important part with introducing this kind of abstraction to this is, the way I do it is, making sure that you're color matching as much as you can, right? To try to match the colors that are already on the canvas, which is really the look that I'm going for. And we're going to start out with the darker colors, the blacker colors, because I actually don't have that much black paint left. So I have to be a little more economical about how I use it. And because of all the work that we poured into it, I'm not going to abstract the sky or the apartments all that much. And most of the abstraction is going to kind of draw your eye down to this gentleman who's laying in the grass over here. It's going to be kind of directional, if you will. Where most of the abstraction is going to be on the left side of the painting, which makes sense because there's less going on over here anyway. So, especially when it comes to this part of the painting, like the middle part of the painting, there's a lot more going on over here than there is over on the left side. So, using a palette knife is easy. You just grab the colors that you want, you mix them just by, you know, rubbing the palette knife against the palette. That's why it's called a palette knife. And then you just cut a roll. You lift up the paint off the palette just with the edge. And then you just introduce it to the painting. Now, here comes the hard part, is deciding where and what you want to abstract. So I think we're going to abstract down into the trees a little bit. And we're going to abstract out this way. We're going to introduce more. Most of the abstraction that I do in these pieces is vertical. I think we're going to add some more horizontal elements this time around. Because, you know, why not? That would be fun. And we'll add a little bit of black to that. And again, for my purposes of doing these, I'm going to try my best to stick to colors that are already on the canvas. If you're doing this yourself, you can use the palette knife to do whatever you want. Just for the effect that I want. Involves doing more of keeping the colors that are already on the canvas. That's more or less the look that I'm going for with this. Okay. Then we're gonna abstract in these trees a little bit, in the forested area. Again, you can put as much or as little paint on the palette knife as you want, depending on the look that you're going for. Okay, so now we're going to switch over and do a few lighter colors to kind of match, you know, the apartment lights and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So we're not going to move. I'm not going to do too much in this area because again, I want the focal point to be kind of moving toward the right over here. So we'll just kind of get some of the, or toward the right, toward the left, I mean. Now the fun part, and also the risky part of this technique, is the fact that there's not really any erasing it. There's ways to. But they are few and far between. Like basically, you have to repaint that area and hope that you get it right. You know, which is why I try to be as deliberate as possible with the marks that I make with the abstraction, because there's really no going back once you start it. Which, yeah, can be kind of scary sometimes, but, you know, it's okay. So, get a little less paint on there, actually. I'm going to try and get some of the sky color down in here. Okay. Get a little bit of the sky color in here too. Put a little here too, because why not? a little bit of dry paint on that little slice. So we'll just get rid of that. All right, so I think that section, that's about all the abstraction that I'm going to do there. So now we're going to kind of shift our focus toward the middle section. And then I'll move the camera down to do some of the stuff down here in the lower trees. And with this one again, like, I think I'm going to largely leave the sky untouched because I love, I mean, this might be, I don't know if it's braggadocious of me, but I do really like the way the sky turned out on this painting. So I think we're going to largely keep the sky the way it is without doing too much to it. We're going to introduce some of that blue. We're going to make ourselves a little bit of a green here, I think. Like a dark green. The nice thing about palette knives too is that they give you such interesting shapes as you're working with them. Just interesting shapes and contours. It's really, I love using them. Get some more green in here. Alright, I'm going to get a little bit more blue on my palette because this blue is starting to dry out a little bit. Now we're just making another green, more of a grayish green, to kind of mute it a little bit. And we're just going to start introducing it down here. I'm not going to completely abstract this area. Here, I should probably move the camera down. So you get a better idea of what I'm doing down here. There we go. Now we're not going to completely, even though this is where this dude is laying, we're not going to completely abstract everything in this area because I do quite like how it turned out. But we are going to abstract around it a fair bit. Get that white off of there. Sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to mix paint with a palette brush, or a palette knife, I should say. But it just takes some practice. Again, just trying to draw your eye down to this area where this dude just happens to be sprawled out in the grass. And then you as the viewer are left to wonder what's happened to him. You know? Because I like leaving stuff up to the viewer. It makes things more interesting. When things are left up to your interpretation, rather than me just telling you what a piece is about. Because, I mean, what's the fun in that? There's a very, well, I don't know if it's a very famous story, but there's a famous story of the author of Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury, who went to a university. Now, this story may or may not be true, but, you know, I've seen it around. And whether or not the story is true, the moral of the story, which I'm getting at, is the more important part. Anyway, Ray Bradbury went to a university to talk about his work, Fahrenheit 451. And according to the story, he got very, very upset because a number of the students were sitting there telling him that his own interpretation of his own story was wrong. Because they had their own interpretations of what his book was about, you know? And, like, understandably, Ray Bradbury was pretty upset by this. But, at the same time, I've long felt that once you create a piece of work, and it is out there in the open for anybody to view, anybody to see, anybody to comment upon, anybody to critique. That work, while it is yours, the interpretation of that work is no longer yours. And that's for better or worse. You know. But the interpretation of that work no longer solely belongs to you. It belongs to you as long as it's in the studio, or it's in your mind, you know? But once it's out there, it's been released, now the public can do what it wants with it. Again, not the artwork itself, because that's what copyright laws are for. But the interpretation and the meaning of the artwork is now up to the public. Which, again, for better or worse, means that sometimes people can have a wildly different interpretation of your work than you ever intended. You know. And you hope, as the creator of that work, you hope that the work isn't co-opted for interpretations and meanings and movements that you don't support. But then again, that's also the risk that you run putting your work out there in the open for people to see. But yeah, I've always, well, not always, because I'm sure I didn't feel like that when I was 2. But as like a professional artist, I've always said, like, as soon as my work is out there to be judged by the public, whatever intentions, whatever interpretations I had in my mind as the artist no longer matter. Because people are going to take from the artwork what they want in terms of the meaning, right? Like, what I intended doesn't matter. And to be honest, when I was in university and we were doing critiques, like some people's, when we would do let me not get tongue-tied here. When we were doing group critiques, sometimes the concepts that the group came up with, like my classmates, were 10 times better than what my original concept was, you know? And I would let them know, like, that's not actually what I had in mind, but I like that interpretation so much better than what I did have in mind, you know? And that's not to say that I'm demonizing Ray Bradbury for feeling the way he did. I mean, you know, I would struggle, even though, like, I've gotten this idea in my head, I would struggle with the idea that I would go to a university with a piece of my artwork and people would have an interpretation drastically different than what I had in mind, and then to be told that my interpretation of myself was wrong, you know, that would probably bother me. But I would have to sort of reason with myself and get over it and be like, well, okay, I mean, those are valid interpretations. I don't own the copyright on that, you know? So yeah, Ray Bradbury was justified in the way he felt, but at the end of the day, people are going to take from your works of art what they want, whether you think it's right or not. And that's just kind of the way it is. Again, for better or worse. Alright, let's see. Let's see, how much time do we got left? Oh, we got plenty of time. Okay. Alright, excuse me for a second. I'm just gonna rehang this thing because it's starting to droop a little bit under the weight of the paint. And, of course, just regular old gravity. Come on. There we go. I just broke the pin, but the pin part still is okay. So, lift this up a bit. And of course, like when you're using a palette knife, like you want the surface to be as taut as possible. At least I do. That didn't help too much, but whatever. It's better than it was. So that's good enough. So now we're going to move up into the sky a little bit. Again, I don't want to do too much abstraction in the sky, because I do like how the clouds turned out. So we'll do a little bit. And again, most of the sky abstraction is going to be on this side of the painting. Okay. Let's do a little bit here. All right, how's this looking? It's looking pretty good, actually. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little bit more black. Which, there's really not that much black paint left. But we'll get as much out as we can. There we go. If I would stop dropping the cap on the canvas, or on the palette, that'd be nice. Alright. Here we go. Basically right now what I'm doing is I'm just starting to layer some darker colors over some of this stuff we did in here. Make it more muted. And add some dimension to it. Okay, and now I think we're going to leave this part alone for now. We'll revisit it in just a second. But I'm going to move the camera down again, try to get as much paint off my hands as I can before I move my phone. And we are going to... There we go. Sorry about that glitch there. Again, I'm gonna need a new phone cord soon, because sometimes when I touch it, it tends to react that way. It just glitches out the screen. Just gonna do a little bit of abstraction in here. Again, not too much. Mostly because I really like how this section of the painting turned out, so I don't want to abstract it too much. I just want to add a few elements in here, just so that it doesn't look like we completely forgot about it, you know? I honestly don't know what it is about this song, but this particular song always kind of gave me like Silent Hill 2 vibes. Like the whole Heaven's Night and like the bowling alley music. So yeah, I want to try and keep this area with dark paint as much as possible, so we'll get rid of that, try to get rid of that gray. Again, we're trying to draw our eyes to the left of this painting. Okay, so now we'll grab some colors that will match this in here a little more. And we'll kind of mirror that a little bit. Again, probably not the brightest colors, but just a little bit. See if I can get more yellow in that. Yeah. Remember, if you want to fade out a tone a little bit, add some white to it, and that'll really fade it. Yeah, that's better. Because the stuff I put there was just a little bit too of a deep orange for what I wanted, so I just added a little bit of white to fade it, and then a little bit of black to gray it out. Make it a more neutral, in-between tone. I think that worked pretty well. Honestly, I think that's all we're going to do to that. We are just going to move that color up a little bit to have it through the painting. And we're getting close here. We're almost done. Move the camera back up. I have a bad habit of sometimes forgetting where my camera is. And I'll start doing something like up here, and it's like, oh, TJ, we can't see. So, I'm trying to get better at that. So my apologies. All right. Let's see, what else can we do? Add a little bit more, just a little bit more abstraction over here, I think. Okay, now we're going to move over here, do some final touches over in this area. Just straighten some stuff up. Just some final little touches. We'll do a little bit up in the sky here. Again, not too much. Because of where we want to keep the focal point on the painting, but we'll do a little bit. Need a little bit more paint on there. Let me get all the way over here in the corner. Make sure that I have the camera up high enough. I'm learning. There we go. Add a little bit more white to that. There we go. And we'll actually extend this down just a little bit more, just a touch more. There we go. All right. And you know what? Let me just back up a little bit. I think this painting's done. So I'll move some of this stuff out of the way. And then we'll back this up and see what y'all think. So that's our, I gotta back up more, I guess. This is a big painting. There we go. So I don't think it turned out half bad. I think that's a pretty good painting. And then I'll just kind of zoom in on some of the details. So we've got our apartment buildings over here. Got our skyline. And of course we've got our big sky here. And then we move down here into the trees. We've got that. I'm still so pleased with how that part turned out. Very pleased with how that turned out. Same with this part. We've got our trees here, and then we've got our dude down here, lying there, and we don't quite know why, but there he is. And we'll back out again. And yeah, that is our painting. Huh. I gotta really like back up here to get the whole thing, and there we go. Not bad. So, last thing to do, of course, is to sign it. And it's a little bit drier over here, so we're gonna sign it over here, I think. And what is today? Today is the 14th, I think. Yeah, there we go. Now the painting is complete. It doesn't mean I won't do like any kind of final edits to it, because just because you sign a painting doesn't mean you can't touch it again. But for all intents and purposes, I think this painting is done, and I think it turned out pretty dang good. All right, so with that, let me stand you up here again. But yeah, it's just one more look at it before we sign off here. Not bad. Not bad. All right, so we'll stand you back up. All right, well, there we have it. We finally completed this painting. So thank you all for coming out and watching. I really do appreciate it. Next time around, on Tuesday, we will actually stretch this painting. So I'll bring you down onto the floor and show you the process of actually stretching a painting, especially a painting this big, you know, because that's it's going to be quite the undertaking, but it is fun. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and have a wonderful Monday, and then we will see you on Tuesday. So take it easy, everybody.